Alright, welcome to another Blood, Sweat, and Tears concrete video. Today, Magnus and I are going to try and answer the question, can a homeowner do a repair on a pool deck by themselves? What we've got is a pretty substantially damaged pool deck. It's just from time, it's old. This whole piece here is ready to fall off, and it's become somewhat dangerous. So we're gonna act as if we are the homeowner. We're gonna do a minimal repair on this thing and just show you the steps that are involved. So what we're doing here is a minimal repair for safety only. So as you can see here, I don't really want to get into this. I don't want to have to replace this. I want to just take the deck from here out and repair it so that you don't step on the edge and end up falling in the pool or something. So as you can see, we've chalked out two sides here, and this is going to be our repair area. Now I'm just eyeballing square, and then Magnus is gonna snap it.
You on?
Yeah. Now whenever you're doing a repair like this, I like to use plastic, cover everything up that may get splattered, because we'll use water with the saw, and that water is gonna be slinging debris everywhere. Alright, so what we've got here is a 14-inch concrete saw. I've had this saw for many years. You can rent a saw similar to this at like the Home Depot or any rental place. It's going to be pretty essential for this. I know it can be done with a worm drive skill saw and a diamond blade, but a saw like this is going to chew it up and spit it out. So that's what we're going to use today, and that's what I recommend. I don't know if you've ever dealt with like the cream of concrete, but just a little bit you can chase for a long ways. So that little bit right there would take me, 10 minutes to rinse out of the corner of the yard. I can just let that dry for a few minutes, and then I'll just leave it on there stuck to it as I break this concrete up. Well, the leaf blower is an optional tool that you really don't need, but sometimes it can come in handy just to help to dry this stuff off real good. All right, we're gonna give it a minute, and when we're gonna knock it out of here, we'll get that on time lapse if nothing else. One thing to be aware of when you're taking this pool deck out is that underneath the cove here, there's a plastic strip, and you can see I've cut through that plastic strip on both sides here. A lot of times, if you're cutting with a worm drive saw, you're probably not going to cut deep enough to get through that strip. That strip's going to be hanging on. Right now, we could probably come real close to pulling this whole chunk out of here all at once because we cut through those strips. Now, I cross-cut on the corner some. You may or may not want to cross-cut your corners. I'm doing it to make it easier because I know the rest of the pool deck will be replaced at some point in time. But we're gonna have to fill them in with cement. If you just want to do that repair and you didn't plan to repair anything around it, you probably want to cut right up to it and then just do a little bit more handwork with a chisel. All right, looks like we're about dry enough. Make sure you've got some safety glasses on because these chunks are gonna be a-flying. A lot of times there'll be a rebar running through the front of this here. So we're gonna find out right now if there's a rebar in this one or not. Alright, so we got the coping off, and you can see behind it there's a rebar in there. And what happened is they used metal rebar back in the day. That's all there was, of course. It cracked over top of the rebar, and the moisture got in there, rotted out the rebar. Even though I'm a big believer in rebar, a lot of times in cases like this, they do more harm than good. Fortunately nowadays, you can use what's called gator bar, and that's what we're using when we replace it. It's a composite rebar that's never going to rust. Now on a project like this, eventually you need to get in the pool and clean out the debris. You're never going to be able to tear this out without getting at least a few chunks in there. So you're going to want somebody that's going to get in and help you clean it out. Now this is a great tool. This is a Fisker Pro sledgehammer. I got it at Ace Hardware. They are not cheap, but it's got that point on it. You can chase a crack with a sledgehammer like this, like nothing I've ever seen. Here's what's left of a number 3 rebar. You can tell there's still some ribs at this end, and it's almost completely worn down to nothing, or you know, it's corroded down to nothing.
Look at that, it's rusty.
Super rusty, yep. Whenever you're removing concrete, be careful of the edges. You never want to pry against an edge. Like where Magnus is going underneath here. That's a good way to go with it. But you never want to pry between the two pieces of concrete. The stuff you're trying to keep and the stuff that you're getting rid of. And there's a second piece of rebar.
What?
So that pretty much does it on the removal. We're going to clean this all up real good. But we're going to have a bite to eat quick, and the kids are going to jump in the pool and we'll do the cleanup. Well, the kids are doing a great job of cleaning the pool up. Alright, so we're jumping ahead quite a bit here. I'm in the pool now, and what I've done is basically lowered the level of the pool just enough. I mean, you can see we didn't go too crazy with it because they want to keep the water level up there. But I've lowered the level of the pool, and I put the pool form on. Now this is going to be kind of a tricky part for you to find, because to buy a box of these pool forms is basically $325. Now if you're a do-it-yourselfer, you probably don't want to spend the $325 on the pool forms. So the key is to call around to the different contractors in town that are doing pool forming and see if they've got some extras left over. I know I usually always have something left over in the garage, in the shed, and most guys do, you know. If you let them know that you're only doing a very small repair and that you will in the future be doing the rest of the deck, they'd probably be happy to sell you a chunk out of there and give you a fairly good deal on it. So with this here now, we had to cut a piece of plywood to fit the hole. And when you look underneath, well, if you could look underneath, what I've done is taken 2 pieces of styrofoam on the sides and stood them up underneath the board. So after it is done pouring, I can pull those pieces of styrofoam out of there, and then the board will drop down and come right out of there. This tapered shape that it's got is going to allow for that to come out of there. And the pieces of styrofoam are going to hold it from setting down, so the weight of the concrete won't push it down. And now I'm going to take these dowels that I've drilled in, and I'm going to go through the form, through this piece of 3/4 inch material. I'm gonna put a nail out here or a screw that I can twist on. So when I pull all this apart, I'll have to cut the wires off and then just finish over the little hole. But when you get these pull forms, they come with little plastic clips that drill in here. And see if you can get those with the forms. I don't have any of those left right now, so I'm just showing you there's other alternatives. There's other ways of doing it if you don't have the plastic clips, but ideally the plastic clips work really well. So all right, we're gonna get this board on here, get all that secured, and then we will check back in again. All right, so here we are. Instead of putting the board on the front, I just went ahead and put a gator bar across the front, tied them all in. Put a gator bar up the end, get that end nice and stiff. Put a gator bar up this end, get this end nice and stiff, and the whole thing is feeling really good.
I love it.
And I think we're gonna be just fine.
You know the best part?
No, the key here, we put these dowels in, we wire through. The wires have to go through this, because they actually hold it down into place. And they have to go at that nice low angle right through these holes. If not, this tends to pop up as you're pouring, and then you've got a mess on your hands.
Guys, you know the best part?
What's that?
I love it. It's nice.
Should work. And so now that we're all set up, we're gonna go ahead and run to the store, grab some concrete, and get this thing poured. Well, we got cut a little bit short yesterday by a rainstorm, so as you can see, the chaos is ensuing here. We had a pretty bad wreck in the pool. When you have a storm like that, things like that happen. But in all seriousness, we're ready to pour now. It's the next morning. We got our little station set up over here. It's a pretty little pour. We got 4 bags. And I went with the 5,000 plus high early strength concrete mix. Time will tell if that's a mistake or not. For a do-it-yourselfer type, I would definitely recommend just going to the regular Sackcrete. And now we're gonna be going ahead and putting a stamped finish on here. Don't even pay any attention to it, you know. We're not trying to match the finish here. We're just showing future finishing options, basically. But it definitely won't match the cool deck that's here. This has been a really popular finish in Tucson, but it's actually getting harder to find people that actually do it anymore, so I'm going to show an alternative today. I don't know what the recommendation is from the Sackcrete people, but what I like to do is I like to fill the water up in the wheelbarrow till it touches the back rivets, in this wheelbarrow in particular, and then start slowly adding the water to it. It's a lot easier to mix. It'll get thick toward the end, but at first it mixes real easily. And that's just a trick I've used. I've mixed hundreds and hundreds of bags over the years. That's the best way I found. The other thing I found that works really well is using a hoe. And this isn't required. I mean, you could get a mixer too. But if you're going to be mixing by hand, a hoe really works well. This type in particular works phenomenally. So let's get after it. All right, we're ready to start making some mud. I did a little wardrobe change, so I'm ready to get in the pool. When you get this mud mixed, I'm gonna try and mix it all at one time. I'm gonna get it into the forms on top, and then I'm probably just gonna get into the pool because it's gonna be a lot easier finishing down there than it is up on top. So we got a bunch of 50-pound bags here. I know a lot of guys like doing it different ways, cutting it in the middle, whatever. I like to just open one end. The water's already in the wheelbarrow. I'm just gonna add one bag, mix it up, add another bag, mix it up. That's the way I like to do it. I like using small bags, 50 or 60 pounders, just because I'm getting older. You can see it's still real wet, but it's still really super duper easy to move around. That's why I like doing it. 3 down, or 3 in the barrel. He is really thickened up now, and we're gonna have to add more water to that last bag. It's been really easy for the first 3 bags, and with the tines on this fork, that breaks up any little chunks that forms. Works really well. I try to keep it down to a minimum on stuff going in the air, but we should really have a mask on for this, especially if you're the camera person. If you don't do concrete on a regular basis, this is going to look really dry. But normally with these concretes, you want them a little bit on the dry side. At least if you're knowledgeable in concrete, because they really do bleed up quite a bit now. Alright, I think I've got it pretty well mixed up. I'm just going to dig into this barrel right to the bottom with a shovel. Turn it over a couple times. Make sure there's nothing else dry at the bottom. That's a pretty good consistency. What's nice about this concrete is that it's mixed right here on site. Normally we're getting mixed at the plant. It's driving 30 minutes or better. Right now it's fresh right here in the wood well. Alright, that looks really good. I'm gonna wheel it on over and start pouring. That's fine. Go ahead and show it when I did that. We'll knock that down in there.
It's the noise.
Gator bar.
I know, I'm just.
Alright, we've got a vibrator. You're probably not going to have a vibrator, so let me show you how to do this cool thing that no. What you're going to want to do, you might want to use some rubber gloves. I was born in the concrete. I've been doing this for many years, so my hands are pretty well adjusted to it. You're probably going to want to put some rubber gloves on, something like that. You're going to want to knead it right down into that front. Back your form up with your thumb and press it in there. You need to get all the voids out as well as possible. Now this stuff's setting fast, I can tell that. So we're going to keep on moving here, but hoping they're real good, especially in the corners. Yeah, and I'm going to hit this one with a vibrator as well, but that really is enough to make it fill the form very nicely. Okay, so normally you take a screed board and you screed this off, but this is such a small area, you know, your mag float fits right across there. You have a mag float or a wood float. You just want to get a nice, even, flat surface from form pull deck. Looks like we've pretty much achieved that now. Now, kind of depending on what finish you're going for, you're either going to edge it or just burn it in. Well, we're going to edge this one today. All these tools are available to rent at various rental places. They're getting expensive, so it used to be worth it just to buy a set, but Nowadays, they're getting crazy expensive. This form has the edge built right into it, so you don't run an edger along here at all. This just gets finished up tight to the form. So I did the overcuts. What I've got is a little cream from the top of the form here, and I'm going to put it right in there. Just keep on packing in there till it's full. And then once it's full, I usually just rub it out with my hand a little bit and I work it in there. On this cool deck, it's easy to blend it in. And then when they put the new coating on, you won't even see it's there. I ran the edger around the outside, smoothed it off, filled in the cracks quick. Now we're just going to get away from it and let it set. So this pool deck edge was a little bit crooked. We were able to adjust it a little bit. And you can probably do the same thing if you see that it's a little in and out. You can pull it out a little here, push it in a little there. You know, we just stuck the trowel in here and that held that spot in, so there's always room for a little bit of adjustment. Okay. How's it looking, buddy?
It's good.
Going right along?
The pool is so nice. Yeah. Ooh.
Alright, it's probably been 30 minutes or so, and we got all the tools washed up, everything cleaned up. Mud's still pretty soft, so a little repair like this is going to take a little while to do, so be patient, but don't be messing around. Alright, little tip. Check your edge height, lay a mag on the deck, slide it over, see how just the knife makes contact perfectly. This is actually something that's way harder to see than you would think. Perfect. 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 So we're in good shape, but it's a good one for a beginner. When you run your edger, you always want to see a mark on the back side here. If you're not seeing the mark back here, it means you're rolling your edge over.
Spider.
Alright, got the jointer. Basically, you put joints in where you want it to crack. So, since we're right over the top of that opening, it's probably going to crack there anyways. So we just gave it a place to crack. It's time to pull this thing. As you can see, when I push on it, it's pretty firm. You're leaving a little bit of a fingerprint. Still kind of soft on the very top, but it's pretty firm inside. So what I'm going to do now is start pulling this face off and finishing it. Make sure you've got a good set of dikes. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to cut this off down low so it's still supporting. And remember my screws here. Now this form went through a rainstorm last night, so I can't say for sure that the adhesive will stick. We're going to try and leave it there for now. And I'm just going to peel it apart one piece at a time here. Alright, so while it's still holding right there, I'm going to go ahead and run an edger over the top. This is still supporting the bottom edge of this. So that gives me an opportunity to work this top edge just a little bit while it's still supported. Very gently. nice and easy. Anything that didn't quite fill in, I'm gonna make sure it's filled in now. That looks pretty good. You can see there now, just running that edger along there, give it a nice slick look. Now I'm gonna finish the top again. I'm gonna go ahead and run my edger around the whole top. Run a trowel over it. Now we're switching from the magnesium tools to the steel tools. Okay, so it's still really quite soft right now, so I have to be very careful not to lose this front edge, and that's why I'm leaving this styrofoam under here for right now. And this is a huge tip. I mean, in a few minutes, you know, in 20 minutes probably, that styrofoam won't be necessary underneath there anymore. Right now, as soft as it is, I'm afraid it might fall right off into the pool, you know. It's a little tricky. This is kind of advanced, you know. Now, I'll give my recommendation at the end whether I think a homeowner should try this or not. If you're a homeowner, you know, thinking that you might want to, you maybe already made that decision. But I'll put my 2 cents in at the end here. Pay attention. Next thing I need to do is to get down low enough here to get these wires. I need to clip them back in there with a wire clipper and then finish over them. And I really do recommend using the plastic clips if you at all possibly can. You know, I mean, these can rust obviously. With those plastic clips, you just turn them, they break off back inside, then you just fill in the hole. Super simple. I didn't have access to them this weekend, so we're gonna make this work, but I would highly recommend the plastic clips. So I reach back in there, dig back in there, and clip them. Oh, but yeah, drop the wires.
Get it. Got it.
One more, bud.
What?
Tap that on.
Oh. Now what can you get? Now what?
Alright, let's drop 2 more, buddy.
Got it.
Yeah, bud.
There's 3 of them.
So we had to push that wire cutter right back in there, and we had to, you know, clip them back in there 1/4 of an inch so that we could cover them with mud. And that was a lot of pressure on that face. Now that we've done that, you know, every time I was lifting up on it, you know, now I've planed it back off here. And, you know, we've got a nice flat edge. Everything's looking good. And I'm going to go ahead and take the rest of this form off here and finish the facing process.
Oh my gosh, you did it. You finally did it.
The only little styrofoam balls that come with this game.
Matthew, it looks amazing.
What are you trying to say?
That needs a sponge float.
What I've seen other people do is take a piece of the forming and make a little float. They cover with tape and then they just rub it on there like that. Now I haven't had a lot of real successful, luck with that whole thing, but it'd be worth a try. And I know you can find a lot of tips out there online. So the finishing part of it, this is pretty advanced. This is not going to want to be the first one that you ever try.
It kind of adds aesthetic. Yeah, no wonder we can't go over. I guess we're gonna have to go through it.
Well, I did say I would give my recommendation on whether this is a do-it-yourself project or not. And all in all, I'm going to have to say for most people it is not. But I do know a few homeowners that could handle it. Even if it didn't turn out quite as nice as what this turned out, it would still be adequate and would still make it safe. And if you're going to take on a project like this, I would definitely say practice. Make some pavers. Pour some concrete, see how it finishes, and make sure you got the plastic clips because they're going to make a huge difference. Sorry, but that's my recommendation. But don't be scared. Give it a try if you want. So once you've got everything smooth as you're going to get it, which this is about minimal smooth as you'd ever want to get it, but once you've got it like that, you can just give it a little time and then put the final finish on it. Today we're going to stamp it. Normally you just wait a few minutes and run a brush over it, broom it. Or if you were going to do a cool deck, that's a whole different category altogether. But that would get splashed on right now. So anyways, I'm going to go ahead and stamp this in a minute and be done with it. So I'll go ahead and sign off right now. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share with all your friends. And thank you so much for stopping by.